So, Afghanistan. It's a name you hear all the time, right? But beyond the headlines, what do we really know about it? Well, today we're going to try and piece together this incredible geopolitical puzzle. Okay, let's just jump right in with the question that's probably on your mind the second you look at a map of Afghanistan. What is up with this bizarre-looking panhandle? It just juts out into the middle of nowhere. It looks completely unnatural, and you know what? That's because it is. The answer to that question unlocks the entire story of this place.
And we'll get to that panhandle, I promise. But first, to really understand the country, you've got to start with its most basic symbol, the flag. In Afghanistan's case, it's not just a piece of cloth, it's practically a history book, a visual record of its struggles and its identity.
Okay, so these three stripes, they're not just colors, they tell a story. That black, it represents the nation's really tough, often dark past. The red, well, that's for the blood shed by everyone who fought for its freedom. And the green, that's all about hope, for the future, and it also represents Islam, which is so central to the country.
And then you zoom in on the emblem in the middle, and wow, the detail is just incredible. Right at the heart of it, you've got a mosque. It's framed by these sheaves of wheat, which symbolize agriculture. And at the top, that's the Shahada, the Muslim declaration of faith. But here's the detail I really want you to see. The year at the bottom. It says 1298. Now, in the Islamic calendar, that translates to 1919. And that year is so important. It marks the moment Afghanistan finally got its full independence from Great Britain. It's a declaration of sovereignty stamped right there on the flag.
All right, so we've looked at the symbols, now let's get physical. To really get a grip on Afghanistan, you have to understand its geography. And honestly, it's dominated by one single massive feature. Get this. A staggering 75% of the entire country is covered in rugged mountains. I mean, that's not just a feature, that's the whole personality of the landscape. You've got the huge Hindu Kush mountain range acting like a giant spine, running right down the country from the northeast to the southwest. And we're not talking about rolling hills here. These are serious mountains. The highest peak, Mount Noshak, towers at almost 7,500 meters. The snowmelt from these giants is what feeds the rivers that let people live and farm in the valleys below. So, in a very real way, these mountains are the lifeblood of the entire nation.
And this mountain backbone, it just completely splits the country in two. On one side, to the north, you've got these fertile plains. Think rolling hills, agriculture, the breadbasket of the nation. But then you cross the mountains to the south, and everything changes. It becomes this arid, almost desolate landscape of plateaus and massive deserts, including one with the pretty ominous name Dasht-e-Margot, which literally means the desert of death. You can imagine how this massive geographical split has shaped everything, where people live, their cultures, and even their conflicts for centuries.
Okay, so how does all this, the mountains, the deserts, connect back to that weird panhandle we started with? Well, the answer isn't in the geography. It's actually in the history. And it all comes down to a massive rivalry in the 19th century between two of the world's biggest empires. And this is where we get into something called the Great Game. It's fascinating. You had the Russian Empire pushing down from the north, expanding south. At the same time, the British Empire was pushing up from the south, from India, and caught right in the middle, Afghanistan. It was this volatile, critical piece of land, and neither of the big empires wanted to share a direct border with the other. They were terrified it would spark a major war. So what did they do? When they finally drew up the borders in the late 1800s, they got creative. They intentionally carved out this long, skinny piece of land, what we now call the walking corridor, to act as a buffer zone.
So they gave this buffer zone to Afghanistan, and the result is, well, it's pretty wild. Because at the very, very tip of this corridor, Afghanistan now shares this tiny, incredibly remote, but strategically massive 20-mile border with China. It's a direct legacy of old-school colonial mapmaking, and it has huge geopolitical implications today.
So, we've got the shape of the land down. But what about the people who live there? You see, Afghanistan isn't just one group of people. It's this incredibly rich mosaic of different ethnic groups. The Pashtuns are the biggest single group, yeah, at about 42%, but that's the key. They're not an outright majority. This country is a true mix. You've got huge populations of Tajiks, Hazaras, and Uzbeks, and more. This complex diversity is absolutely central to understanding the country's identity and, let's be honest, a constant factor in its internal politics. And the language situation is maybe even more fascinating. So Pashto is the language of that largest ethnic group, spoken by about half the people. But get this. Dari, which is basically a dialect of Persian, is spoken by a massive 85% of Afghans as the common language, the lingua franca. Which means, kind of crazy, right, that someone from Afghanistan can often have a pretty easy conversation with someone from Iran. And this diversity isn't new. It has incredibly deep roots. Just take the amazing story of this man, Zablon Simintov. For years, he was believed to be the very last Jewish person in the entire country. He single-handedly maintained the last synagogue in Kabul. He was like a living, breathing connection to a diverse past that most people don't even know existed. Okay, for this last part, we're going to look beneath the surface of Afghanistan. And I mean that literally. Because beyond all the headlines about conflict and poverty, there is this staggering economic potential that could completely change everything about its future. Ready for this? 1, 2, 3 trillion dollars. Let that sink in. That's the estimated value of the untapped mineral resources just sitting there under Afghanistan's mountains. It's a number so big, it's hard to even wrap your head around. It's a hidden treasure chest on a scale that's almost unimaginable. So what exactly is in this geologic treasure chest? Well, you've got massive deposits of things like copper and iron ore, but you've also got the really critical stuff for our modern world, like lithium, for all our batteries, and rare earth elements that power pretty much all of our technology. And of course, you've got the gemstones the region has been famous for thousands of years, like that beautiful lapis lazuli. The potential is absolutely enormous, but of course, the challenges of actually getting it out of the ground are just as big.
So there you have it, the Afghan puzzle. It's a geographical fortress that got turned into a pawn in a game between empires. It's a mosaic of ancient peoples who happen to be sitting on a trillion-dollar fortune of 21st century resources. The ultimate question for this place, often called the heart of Asia, isn't just what its future holds, it's about who's going to get to shape it.